Good morning and welcome. I'm your host, Bob Pace, and today's podcast is about fighting CPS and getting your children back. Now, CPS stands for Child Protection Services. It's a branch of the social services, it's a federal government entity, and it is handling the protection of our children through neglect and abuse, but it also handles to get the family back together when there's hiccups along the way. There is the family part that's really important in doing so. Now, I want to go over some housekeeping items here. This is a live broadcast that's broadcast on YouTube via YouTube. The broadcast on YouTube via Facebook. Said that wrong. Sorry, good morning. We are definitely having a wet weather here in California. And so I'm bundled up to try to stay warm and hope you guys are safe and we are out there. I know that CPS is a horrible, horrible thing to be going through. It's definitely really, really, really bad. And I really feel for you out there. I have been through CPS. I've been fighting for 14 years. 3 years of my 14 years, I was heavily involved with them. So, um, um, so with that being said, I have a wealth of information to share with you, the good and the bad, and how you can interact with the show. And I really love this to be an interacting type of podcast. That means you all are in this room because if you have something in common, if you want to know about CPS, you're involved in CPS or CPS is in your life. Well, one of the things you can do is you can text a comment to me at the bottom of your YouTube. There's a place that has comments. And what you do is you text a comment. But it's important that you do a couple things. I need your name, and your name can be just a first name, and it has to be something that you can put up in public. It can't be some derogatory remark or something there. Also, I need to know the city and state you're calling from. Just the city and state. I don't need to know the county where the child is involved. I don't need any specific names of judges or politicians or anything like that, or CPS workers or anything like that. But I'd like to have your allegations so I know kind of like if it's something that you did a hiccup or is it wrongful allegations. And then I like to hear the children involved. Is it a 2-year-old boy, a 3-year-old girl, a 5-year-old, a 17-year-old? What are the children? How many children? And if this is a multiple CPS case, you need to start with the first case so I can understand the second case. And it involves multiple partners or multiple spouses. You have 5 children with 5 different husbands, or you weren't married or whatever the case be. That's also important because this way I can try to help you and mold the show towards your needs. And then you put, you have your allegations and you have whether you have children and whether you have a partner or a spouse or there's just a biological father involved. And then you have the allegations there, but then also you have where you're at. I'm just right now, and with the safety plan, or my kids are in foster care, or something along those lines. And then you start from the beginning, and there are questions. If you want questions today about something, I'll try to help you. I'm not an attorney. I'm an older man with lots of years of experience in life and 14 years of dealing with CPS. I've heard hundreds of cases that have called in from around the country. And it seems they have one thing in common, that CPS is taking their kids unnecessary and making you guys go through hoops and so forth, especially if you have a hiccup or something. So, doing a comment helps, interact with the room. and like that. Now, if you want to go one step further, you could call in and be a guest, and you could talk about your case. The number to call in is 626-698-0990. That's my office phone number. That goes directly to my phone, and I'll answer the call and put you live as a guest, and you could talk about the goods or the bad things. If you had a good experience with CPS, you had a good experience with a public defender, I like to hear it, as well as the bad or the good. But 99% of the time, I've heard nothing but negativity. And that's sad because it's an agency that's needed because our children are abused. And it's just that it's gotten so corrupt lately. Uh, it takes a lot of changes, and changes involve politics. And politics is so hard to make changes. I mean, even trying to get a motion passed in Congress is so hard and so difficult. And I have no idea why Congress wants to take a vacation for 2 weeks when there's very important topics on there. And some of it deals with CPS. Some of it deals with CPS. Anyway, you can call in that number and I'll put you live. But let's say, hey, I don't really want to talk now, but I want to talk another time. I have 14 shows. I'm on 7 days a week, 7 in the morning, 10 in the morning, 7 o'clock at night, Pacific Standard Time. The only exception is that on Sunday, I'm on at 10:30 because of another podcast earlier. And so that's 14 shows. And you may want to be on my Friday evening show or my Friday morning show or my Wednesday evening, Wednesday morning, so forth. All you do is you call in my other office number, 888-888-6582, and you'll get the front office, and you tell them that Bob Pace sent you. You say, I just heard Bob Pace on his CPS show, and he told me to tell you to schedule a time and a date of when you'd like to be on. And you do that there. So it's really important you say my name, and then you get scheduled a date or time, and then our producer will contact you and briefly tell you the ropes to go on there. I will talk at the beginning before we start about what you can do and what you can't do and those kinds of things. So those are several ways. Comments, text in, calling me directly right now to be on the show, or calling the office to later be on the show. So I hope you got your pad of paper and pencil out, or whatever you're taking notes with, because I'm going to tell you about your first rule. Now, this show is kind of repetitious, and that's why I love to have guest speakers on there. So my apologies go up if it's something you already heard. But the rule number one is you need to have a professional family law attorney. I emphasize family law attorney. And an attorney that has fought CPS, that has been successful in getting the children returned. And I have such an attorney here. His law firm, Vincent W. Davis and Associates, produces this podcast. And there are many attorneys that he has that handle other legal matters. But the one you want is family law. It's with juveniles, children under the age of 18. And it deals with the Child Protection Services. Now, it may have another acronym, another name, another state. It all boils down to an entity within social services that protects our children from neglect and abuse. Neglect and abuse. There are many types of neglect and many types of abuse. And it's very important that you have someone that can navigate and knows the laws and knows how to fight CPS. We have an attorney in this law firm named Vincent W. Davis. He's a professional family law attorney. He's a trial attorney. He's done many trials. He also has fought CPS and won. He's also returned children and got them back. He's also sued CPS and won. He's done civil lawsuits for your violation of your civil rights. There are things that you're supposed to have happen with your CPS case, and they are suable items and they're not done. You cannot sue CPS emotionally. Emotional damage, that won't fly. And you can't really sue them to after your case is over. But Mr. Davis can do that also. He can sue them, and there's accountability on anything in this world, and CPS needs to be accountable. They're not right now. They're not transparent. They're deceitful. They lie. They cheat, and they do steal your children. They're the only legal entity I know that can legally steal your children. And what I mean by steal, they have stupid things that they go and overkill for maybe innocent families uh, that have allegations that aren't true, been wrongly true. There is that thing there, but you need, just like if you're going to have open heart surgery, you need a doctor, and with CPS, you need an attorney. And that attorney is Vincent W. Davis. And you're in luck because right now he's offering a 30-minute up to an hour of free consultation of his time to talk to you about the strategies of CPS and getting your children back, how to fight CPS, the strategies. And you'll do that all for free. All you have to do is call in at 888-888-6582. That's my second office phone. And when you speak to the front desk, when they answer, tell them that you want a free consultation with Mr. Davis. And also tell them that Bob Pace sent you, because that would waive the normal fees there are for consultation. And if you left a message, they haven't called you back, call them again. Or let me know on one of my shows, and I'll text Mr. Davis that you've been attempting to set up a free consultation and they're not responding. So, and a doctor can do open heart surgery, but public defenders don't know the laws of family. They're not family law attorneys. They are there because they're court appointed. They're new practicing the law. They're very young, and they have a caseload of 20 or more clients, and they can't handle a lot of what goes on, and they don't have developed any good scruples, so they side with social service. They side with the judge. So, public defender is not what I'm talking about getting. So Mr. Davis is available. All you have to do is call in 888-888-6582 and say that you would like to speak to Mr. Davis for 1 hour for his free consultation, and that Bob Pace sent me. So that is really important. Also, when you go through the session and you talk to him, make sure you mention that Bob Pace sent me. He likes to know that too. So make sure you say that Bob Pace sent you. And then after your session and you like what you hear and he's a great attorney, then I recommend you retain him. I know money is probably one of the biggest problems people have in hiring attorneys because it's a lot of money for the retainer, but it's worth every dime. And if you have a credit line or if you have some other collateral or a loan from somebody, be worth it to get the money, because if you want your children, you'll need them. Otherwise, it may take you 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever years to get your kids back using a public defender or trying to do it yourself. You will not be successful in working with CPS. They're going to lie to you. They're going to make you do things unnecessary, and so you just don't want to do that. So, and then I'm going to give you rule number 2: is you get yourself a notebook if you haven't done so already, and with your notebook you're going to keep events in chronological date order. So your first entry would be the date and the time. So you put the date and then you put the time below, and then you put down who is involved. Was it the social worker? Was it the doctor, the therapist? What was involved there? So you put who was involved there. And then what you want to do is put down what is the besides the people, you want to put down what transpired, what incident was it, a safety plan meeting, and then you want to put the outcome. And with that said, you may have hundreds and hundreds of entries because this case will be more than just 60 days or 90 days or 1 year or 2 year. You got to know this. CPS plans are to abduct your children, to force them in foster care so that they can collect a very lot of money to live a Taj Mahal lifestyle. Now, that was where I observed firsthand that the director of CPS was working out of. It was an overkill of a building. I know architectural is nice, but social service should be more about the families and the kids, and helping them with food and stuff like that, not to make a fast buck off something, not to make an expense of children. And they will take your children and very use deceitful tactics to do so. Um, so with that notebook, you want to take good notes because you need to refer to them, a year later, 2 years later, whatever. You can't remember everything. And getting an attorney, rule number one, get a notebook number two. And then rule number three is that if you're approached by a social worker, they come to your home or, they call you, you do not speak to them. You say yes, no answers. And you say to them as they come to your home, no, I'm not letting you in. And you can further say, I have an attorney, and you can contact him or give me a number, I have my attorney contact you. So if they know that you got an attorney and you're trying to do legal, sometimes they back off, especially if the allegations are hearsay. And so you do not want to talk to CPS workers, and you don't let them in your home. They have to have a search warrant. They have to have a warrant from the court issued by a judge or signed by a judge that depicts who they're going to investigate and what they're looking for and where the location is. That's got to be on the court order. It can't be something vague or something. And be very careful about saying court orders on the weekend because the judges don't work and won't be signed. So if they have a court order, you want to look at it. You want to read it. It's your constitutional rights to be served a warrant to visit your home, to take your children. So, and even if the police are there, that holds true for the police. And they will get a warrant. And when they get a warrant, then you can let them in. But by then, you should have been able to contact your attorney. It's so important that you contact an attorney so that you don't get eaten up alive by CPS. They will use previous cases against you. They'll use previous trouble with drugs against you. They will manipulate and use you in every way, which way or form. And it's sad because they now have lost their goal is to do family reunification. They're not a family reunification place, and it should be. It's in the law. Yes, children are neglected. Children are abused, and it's horrendous. There are horror stories about that. Children's hands being put in the stove so they can see that it's hot and they burn their fingers. I mean, even silly things or stupid things that parents do. And those parents who do those kind of things, it can still be family brought back together. Families brought back together. They can do programs and drug rehab and drug testing and other kinds of programs with their behavior towards their children and so forth. And parenting classes are a strong part of that. Now, I've talked to you about the three rules: a lawyer, um, a notebook, and no to CPS and police. So, with that said, that should help you a little bit with those general rules. Now, let's talk about the thing called allegations. CPS is required to follow up on any allegations within 24 hours. They're required by law. So if they receive a phone call, they're going to follow up on it. And I'm sorry to say that spouses going through a custody battle will use CPS to alienate the children from you. They'll report something that isn't true, and then suddenly you got to fight it off. It's sad, but they do. I just wish that when allegations are made, they're made in writing and that they're signed by the person who make the allegations and the information is kept confidence, but they would investigate those evidence. That would cut out a lot of the false allegations that are out there. My case, I had false allegations. They were false through and through. My wife's family was trying to take away our children. And ever since, we've been married, we've been together for 32 years, 5 years into our relationship, we wanted to get married, and they wouldn't even show up to our wedding. My mom and dad did, but they did not show up. It was a sad. We told them about it a year in advance. They did nothing about wanting to party in because it was sad, and that's where we didn't realize, and my wife and I, that her parents were really at fault. Not only her parents, but her sisters and brothers were bad too. And it's sad because my wife learned out a lot of things from this case that she wished she had known because she was punished wrongly a long time ago by her mother by putting scalding hot water on her or hot coffee. Those are no-nos. You don't do that to children. And then her brother tried to molest her. And that was sickening because here she is, a young child, and an older brother shows no respect for his sister and wants to do that. And the parents are not there to protect her. And when she does tell her parents, they don't do anything about it. They do not do anything about it. It's a sad state of affairs. And it topped it off. She went to a concert at 15, which is way too young to go to a concert. And she was with her older sister, who was over 18 at the time. But her sister was strung out on drugs and wasn't much use as far as protecting her sister. And she went to the bathroom, got separated, and came out, was looking for how to get back to her thing. I think with maybe there was 100,000 people there or 50,000 people there. It's a lot of people. Anyway, these two guys saw her in distress, took her, kidnapped her, and took her in the bushes and raped her. And her first experience of sex was rape. And out of it, a child was born. And she gave up the child for adoption. He later came into our lives at age 20. And so he got in touch with his biological mom. There's a happy ending. Plus, he's a successful officer in the Air Force, doing work doing work as a lawyer in JAG. And so he's made himself a respectable life. He's 40 something years old now. And he has two children and a wife who's also an attorney. They're very successful. So we do have two groups of children. We have our older group of children and our younger group. My older ones are 32, 36, and 42 now. My young ones are now are 24, 21, and 18. At the time that the children were stolen, there were 9, 12, and 15. And it was so sad when they're stolen. But these allegations that are made, if they were in writing and assigned, there probably wouldn't be as many false allegations. But when the allegations are made, CPS will investigate within 24 hours, but they have to accept them that they're for real. So you are guilty until you're proven innocent. It isn't like all the other criminal courts where you're innocent until you're proven guilty. Here, they want you to be guilty right away, and they want to take your child into their system so that they can earn money to feed their coffers, to feed their people, and so forth. And it is really, really sad. I wish I had known about rule number 3 because I talked to the social workers. I let them in my house, and that was a mistake. That was a mistake, and I had to pay for it dearly. So my CPS case was called in by my wife's family, who were the brothers and sisters and mom and dad, who really said that their daughter was not fit to be a mother and did negative things against us because they heard we lost a job and I'm out there looking for it. And I was 60 at the time. And it's hard to find work at 60. I'm 74 now. It's hard for me to find work at 74. I have found work. I have worked since I laid off in 2010. And my job in 2010 was um, through no fault of my own being laid off. It was really tough. It was really, really, really tough when I lost my job. I had a perfect storm brewing. It started in 2007 with the fall of the banks, the failures of the banks, and lenders were giving away loans, predatory loans, a dime a dozen, so that the lenders could reap the rewards of bonuses for doing a loan. They got some high bonuses. I thought something was strange that I would qualify for the house I was getting. I was moving up a house that was twice as much as my previous house. And I used all that money, put it down, but I still had a big loan. I still had a big debt, over $1 million. I had a $300,000 credit line and 651st. And when you lose a job, that's the worst scenario. I did have savings, and I was able to keep paying the mortgage for about 3 years till I ran out of it. And um, my retirement plan was cut in half at the failures of the bank, and the way my work was invested in the retirement was poor choice of stocks. And so I lost half of my retirement, and that's a big chunk of change. And CPS is a strange animal. Both my wife and I are college educated. Uh, we had a really nice functional family, and CPS ruined it. CPS did everything they could do to separate the kids from us and to make things and blow up things that weren't true. And so I'm only saying this with a sad heart, but I know that you all are out there with a similar thing like that happening. And so I feel for you out there. I really do. Um, this broadcast will be broadcast over and over, so you can listen to it again if you have to drop out. So anyway, with the storm brewing, my retirement was cut in half. I had a predatory loan, and then I was let go of my job, and that was something that I've been working for 59 years and 40 years in that field, and that was a hard thing to take. I worked in civil engineering, heavy highway, and construction. So, hold on one second here. I need to. Okay. Okay. God, this wet weather is affecting my internet and stuff. Hopefully, y'all can hear me, and hopefully that you can understand everything I'm saying. Um, if you can hear me, I see a person in the room. Could you put a thumbs up that you hear me okay, or text me a message that I hear you? So that would be nice. With this being said, this perfect storm is when I lost my job, which is another disaster. Here it is, my third disaster. First, my retirement was cut in half, and then I had a predatory loan, and then I lost my job through no fault of my own. State of California was going bankrupt. They need to move funds around. They wrote me IOUs on projects I haven't started yet that I wanted to build for the state. And that was hard to swallow because I needed the money. I needed the money to pay the people and do the job and get paid for doing the work. And so I had a lot of work tied up with the state. And so my perfect storm seemed to continue. And then I started for 5 years have these weird calls that come in from social services, the child protection branch, who said all kinds of crazy things. You're not feeding your kids. You don't have electricity. You don't have water. You don't give them clothing. They don't go to school. They're miserable. They're dirty. There's all these stories that were being fabricated up. Why? Because my wife's family wanted to take the kids away from us. And it's really sad how family members can manipulate an agency. And CPS is dumb. They are really dumb. They've been duped into thinking they know what they're doing, but they're not. And so um, it was it was hard, this perfect storm. It was definitely the big waves and the crashing and things like that. So when I got the notice from CPS or the phone calls, I started being harassed for them by 5 years. I tell them nothing wrong. I did meet with them. I did talk to them, which is rule number 3. You don't talk to them. I did not get an attorney, which is rule number 1. I should have got an attorney. I tried to fight it on my own. I was successful for about 5 years. Unfortunately, these allegations kept being repeated over and over and over and over. And by law, they have to investigate every allegation within 24 hours, whether it's true or not. And then if they have to prove that you're not guilty, but you're guilty for the time being, you're guilty, and they'll try to destroy you. They'll try to destroy you so bad. They really will. Again, I'd like to remind everybody that I have comments that you can text in. Make sure to put your name, the city and state. If you're from another country, it's fine, because I've had Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, and Ghana uh, listen to the show. So they all have CPS problems too. So it's a worldwide issue, and I know there's a lot of horrible trafficking happening out there and so forth. But I hope that you all can type me a comment, what you're involved at the beginning of your case and what I can do for you. And if you want to come and talk right now, we still have a half an hour left of the show. You can call it 626 698 0990, and you'll get my phone. And I will turn on speaker and you become live on the show. And that way you can talk about your case. If you're not ready to talk live on the show, you can call 888-888-6582. Talk to the people that answer. Tell them you want to be on Bob Pace's show. Make sure you use my name, Bob Pace, and say I want to be on a Saturday show or a Sunday show or a Friday show at 10 o'clock or 7 o'clock. You pick the date and time you want to be on, and then our producer will contact you and get you set up for doing it. It's really simple. It's not that hard to it's not that hard for you to call in and say you want to speak on the show. Just say my name, Bob Pace. It's 888-888-6582. 6582. Okay. I don't want you to forget the attorney, Mr. Davis. He's offering a free consultation for 30 minutes up to an hour. And that's the same number you call, my second office phone, 888-888-6582. And make sure you tell them that Bob Pace sent you. Also, you need to, when you see Mr. Davis, say my name again. Remember, he is a professional family law attorney. He can defend your case quite well. He has fought CPS and won. He has gotten children back. He's also sued CPS and won. And so he's a good candidate to pick. And he offered a free consultation of 30 minutes up to an hour of his time to talk about the strategies of dealing with CPS, how to fight them, and also to get your children back. He's really good at what he does. He's a trial attorney, doing this a long time. He does Southern California, Northern California, and across the U.S. His scale is sliding depending on the um, location and the complexity of the case and how long it's been going on. He's more money if he goes to Arizona than he stays in California. He's from Southern California, so there's rates right now that are proportion to the location, the complexity of the case, and how long the case has been going on. And I guarantee after you talk to him, you're going to want to retain him because he's really expert what he does, and he will fight for you. He has sued CPS and won. So I recommend that you do um, call in at 888-888-6582 and get that free consultation. Make sure you say my name, Bob Pace, told me to call in, and that's with the front girls. Also, you need to tell Mr. Davis the same thing. All it involves is a couple of things. Um, all you have to do is when you see him, though, make sure you also tell my name. Bob Pace sent me. That's really important. And if you haven't heard back from them, call them again. My apologies go out there. And so, or let me know in the next show that you're having trouble getting a free consultation, and I'll help you do so. Okay, I have about 25 minutes left. And I talked about my case so much till I'm blue in the face. How CPS deceived me is they duped the police into pulling me over and insisting I drive the home, and then got into my home, and that's where they saw my parents' belongings that I had to take from them because they wanted to liquidate their homes, that I had no money for storage and so forth. And they accused me of negligence to the children. I guess the boxes could have flown up to the stairs and attacked them in their bedroom, where the chairs could have walked up the stairs. I have a big house with high voltage ceilings, and it was really unfortunate that um, when they get me to my house, in front of my house was 3 social workers, 5 firemen, 2 code enforcement, 2 uniformed policemen, and the detective. All insisted to see my house. I didn't know the rule number 3. I did not know that. I did not know you need a warrant and stuff like that. So I opened my house, and then that's they thought it was such extreme that they took my children that night, put them in shelter. That was so unsafe, next to a prison, near the dependency courts, and then it was infested by bees outside, so it was safe for them to play outside. And then on top of that, um, they took my children. It was a hard day that day. Now I have some topics here that I try to talk to people about. I don't want to talk too much more about my case. If you want me to, text me and I can. But I guess I should start back at the beginning when your case starts within that first 24 hours of a reported uh, neglect or abuse. Now, as I said, CPS, Child Protective Service, under the California Department of Social Services. The Department of Social Services is a federal entity that each state has, and it's a state intervention system to stop child abuse and neglect. The goal of CPS is to ensure that all children are safe in their homes and to find new solutions for children who are unsafe. CPS is required to act on any report it receives of suspected child abuse or neglect. It will investigate, intervene as needed, and provide whatever service the child needs to be safe. Now, what happens if someone reports you to CPS? CPS is required to act on every tip or phone call it receives alleging suspected child abuse or neglect. It's not difficult for a misunderstanding to lead to false accusations. Parents may be falsely accused, maliciously, and forced to go through a CPS investigations. What I mean by that is a spouse is going for a custody battle, wants to alienate your children from you, and will say false allegations, and it'll be maliciously used. The uh, the investigation will conduct a physical examination of your home. Now, you do not have to let them in your home unless they have a court warrant. They'll interview the parents. You do not have to speak to them. They'll interview the child, and the child should not speak to them, but unless they've been taught ahead of time, they will probably say some stuff, and sometimes children will say the wrong things. And they will perform a physical examination of the child. That's what the investigation process are. So again, I repeat, rule number one, it is your best interest to have an experienced family law attorney by your side throughout a CPS investigation. Depending on the findings of the investigation, your child could be removed from your home or may have family preservations and support services imposed on you. It's usually a last resort for CPS to remove a child from the home. If it determines the residence is unsafe for a child, there are other options to ensure separation from the parents is not permanent. That's a really key one. They're supposed to do that. You're supposed to know these things. Now, what's considered child abuse? It can be a physical injury by anything other than accidental means. If a child is subject to unjustifiable punishment or willful cruelty, a child is abused or exploited sexuality, a child is neglected by a parent or caretaker who fails to provide adequate food, shelter, clothing, supervision, or medical care. Now, as I say, you have rights if CPS investigates you. So, if someone reports to CPS that they suspect you of child abuse or neglect, you will have to undergo a CPS investigation, regardless whether those allegations are completely unfounded. When dealing with CPS, it's important to know that you have rights and understand what they are. You have to know your rights. That's where rule number one, have an attorney comes in handy. CPS cannot enter your home without permission. You're not required to take a drug test simply because CPS asks you to. Unless investigators produce a court order, you have a right to refuse the test. You have the right to be present in any court hearing concerning your case. That means you are in the courtroom. In my case, I was denied that access. I was waiting out in the halls and only came in to hear what the outcome was. My wife and I were waiting out there. You still have parental rights, and that is parental rights in medical and educational. Even if CPS removes your child from your home or takes legal custody temporarily, they take legal. You still have your medical rights. You can still pick what doctors your child sees, and you still have educational. You can pick out what school they go to. You have another right, a right to deny all allegations, any allegations the CPS makes you against you. And you have a right to an attorney throughout the entire process. And that's where you should have the attorney before you go to court. If CPS wants to place your child in foster care, present a list of relatives who will be willing to take your child instead. They're going to try to put their child in a shelter or in a temporary hotel with supervision, and then they're going to try and move them to a group home. And from home, they'll try to move into foster care. So if you have a list of relatives who are willing to take your child, then that can be grandparents, an aunt, and uncle, brothers, sisters. That's done at the safety planning meeting. If CPS brings up old allegations, such as a drug possession charge from many years ago, be prepared with documentation if you've completed a court-ordered program, meaning you've taken care of the matter. They're going to look at your history. You've been involved with CPS before, they'll look again. Now, with that being said, it is a tough road to fight these allegations. It really is. It is a tough road to fight these allegations. There's no question about that. That's where the attorney comes in handy. There's no question about that. Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about parent alienation in California. And you need to know alienation is nothing more than making one person look bad to other persons. That's what it is. There can be alienation at work, alienation in the family, alienation between the husband and wife, alienation with CPS. CPS uses alienation all the time. Their whole goal is to separate the children from you so that they have the children in custody so they can make the money. So you need to know about alienation and how it works and how bad it can be. A lot of times alienation happens when parents separate. And it's also very difficult for their children because they're forced to pick their parents. And that is really bad in custody cases. Final custody orders can be complicated situations for the entire family and children and can react to divorce in many different ways. Ideally, both parents are able to work in their child's interest and the family can work through a new future. When parents have especially contentious relationships, this can lead to dispute, damaged relationships, and even parental alienation. Parent alienation can hurt everyone in the family, especially children. So you have to really understand alienation because CPS will try to alienate you. Family members will try to alienate your children. In our case, our family on my wife's side was trying to alienate our children from us. So that's really important. CPS will use alienation because they will not tell the children what you're doing. They want to tell you that you're working to fix up your deficiencies or going through parenting classes or programs or anything like that. And so it's really important that you're aware about now things that can happen is sometimes people tell a child lies about the other parent or both parents. They'll prevent contact communication between a child and their other parent. CPS does that all the time. Child Protection Agency will not have an open way of communication between you and your child. When your child is taken, we saw our children that night in that horrific shelter with the bees outside the prison and the dependency court, the lousy food. It was dirty, it was overcrowded. And they tell the children not to say anything to your parents. They don't know what's going on. You never want to talk negativity about anybody or criticize the other person. And one of the hardest things is parents' authority. When one parent will overshadow the authority and the other parent won't. And so that is really, really important that you keep aware of that. You want to plan enjoyable activities with the child to interrupt or ruin the parent's visitation or custodial time. Well, CPS ruined our time with our children. It was terrible. And you do not want to share information with the parents, with the child. You don't want to do that. CPS will try to do that. And you want to be able to cooperate with a parenting plan. There is a parenting plan that takes place, so it's really, really bad. Um, all I know is that alienation harms everybody, the family, the mother and father, and CPS is noted for doing so. And again, I base this on the fact of firsthand experience. I base it on the fact of over 100 people I've talked to around the country and around the world. We've had Australia call, Canada call, United Kingdom, and even Ghana has called in because they saw my show on Facebook. And they've texted a comment or so forth on that. So, um, um, I want to talk about things that you should know about that CPS is a business. They are cost per sale, also known as the pay per sale. It's used to get amount of money for each child that's held in their custody. And they do get a lot of money for each child. It's wrong. They get a lot of money. You know, you start at CPS, they are supposed to protect the children from caregivers who may be harming them. But my children, when they're in foster care, were very much harmed. They're harmed in group homes. And they are responsible for investigation and intervention, regardless of the case, including everything there is. But in all its procedures, CPS must follow state and federal laws, which they do not follow. I want to tell you that right up front. Now, child protection services are called by different names, DYFS, DCC, and so forth. They're all the same. Now, when they have that family safety meeting, there's one thing that I should talk about is something that protects Indian children. In 1972, there was an act called the Indian Child Welfare Act, and that was passed in 1972, and that was strictly for American Indians and their families and so forth. It's sometimes abbreviated called ICWA, and they need to. CPS is required by that law to, if the parents tell them, but they also need to tell the parents, do you have Indian blood in you, Indian children? And if the answer is yes, they need to investigate and find out if they're registered, if you're registered with a tribe, or could be registered, could qualify to be registered. The reason being is that CPS will turn over the children to the tribe and let the tribe take care of their own. And they do a lot better job than CPS does. CPS, for a long time in the 50s and 60s, was taking away Indian children by the thousands and breaking away from their parents. And a lot of their parents were alcoholics, a lot of them. It's a very depressing thing to have our first immigrants, the Native American Indians that settled this country, and rise to the power that they did. And then the other immigrants that came afterwards slowly destroyed the Native American Indians. And today they had to pass this act to protect them. They're still are really at poverty level. Now, I want to tell you about, I am a Lakota Sioux in my blood. And my great-great-grandmother is a Lakota Sioux, and she's from the Rosebud Reservation. And being so, I mentioned that to CPS, and CPS brushed it off because I don't look Indian. And if you look at my cheekbones and some of the features they have in there. But anyway, my great-grandmother was a full-blooded Lakota Sioux. My great-grandfather, who married her, was from Norway, Bergen, Norway. And he is a Viking. That's why his blonde hair and stuff there. He's a place there. And so anyway, they don't write records, and so it's really hard. So I don't want you to forget that you have the rights to protect Native American Indian children, because they will take you and put your children on reservations, or if they're at the rancheros or Indian communities, and they will take care of them. So the ICWA Act is one thing there. Now, let me see here. Oh, I'd like to tell you about what a court-appointed special advocate associate, sometimes called CASA. It's a volunteer or court-appointed special advocate who works one-on-one with the foster youth, advocating for their best interests. The CASA is supposed to look at the foster care for the best interests. They're California court-appointed special advocate associates. And you have to be careful, because anything you say, they'll report back to CPS. So you'll get one, your children will get one. And they supposedly think they're on your side. So the function of the CASA person is provide a judge with careful research background of the children or youth to help the court make the decision. The CASA is supposed to get to know your child and provide information about the child to the judge in the court. That's the sole purpose of the CASA in there. So that's something that you come across, that you will encounter. The top 5 benefits of being a CASA volunteer advocate is you become part of the solution for a broken, overburdened system. You make a real difference in a child's life. You gain the opportunity to correct not only with other like individuals, but other members of the community as well. So there are people that volunteer as CASA volunteers. And it's something you got to be careful to heads up, because everybody gets a CASA in the courtroom. Now, I want to mention one other form, because we're getting close to the end of our show, is a 388 petition. That's a petition that you need to file when the differences, when there are new evidence, or you completed your programs or completed your drug-free, and you want to tell the court. It also is used to change your jurisdiction if you move or whatever. Your attorney will know that. Be very leery of a court appointed attorney. They're not really good. I've already mentioned that. Well, again, I want to remind everybody that Mr. Davis is available for a free consultation for 30 minutes up to an hour. All you have to do is call in 888 6582, and you can call in there. Also, mention my name when you call in, and also when you see Mr. Davis in. He'll give you that 30-minute or up to an hour meeting, do the strategize of CPS and get your children back. So that number there is. So I hope all of you will see me later tonight. I love to have any of you on my guest. I want to thank the people that listened, and that I want to wish the best of luck to you all, and a very successful new year, and a very happy new year ahead of you. And keep fighting for your children. Do not give up. Do not give up. You'll eventually get your children back. And so, good luck, and God bless. And I will talk to you later tonight. Bob Pace signing off.